Voice over IP. Is it really possible to play back a conversation that you've captured with Wireshark? The answer is absolutely yes. Let's begin. I was at a conference over a decade ago where the CEO, John Chambers, was talking about the next big application, which was going to be voice over IP, and that Cisco is spending lots and lots of money and time and energy in getting their technology to support that. Was he right? Was that the big next application? He absolutely was. Now, in this video, what I want to focus on is some of the tools inside of Wireshark that we can use if we want to look at or troubleshoot or analyze our voice over IP applications. Wireshark has some built-in amazing tools to help us do exactly that. One thing I've noticed over the years with voice over IP is that there is a boatload of different protocols. There's protocols used for the call setup and control. There's protocols used for transport. And if you want to dig into the details of these protocols and really start to learn them, I would strongly recommend checking out Jeremy Chara's CCNA and CCNP series nuggets on voice over IP. Not only is Jeremy entertaining and really good, he also keeps that content current. So please check him out for more details on how to set up, configure, manage, and troubleshoot voice over IP networks. SIP is the Session Initiation Protocol. It's an example of a signaling protocol used for the setup of a voice over IP call. SDP stands for Session Description Protocol. Still part of SIP, it can provide information about the media streams inside of a multimedia session. RTSP is the real-time streaming protocol, and it can be used for establishing and setting up a media session between 2 points in the network. And it can facilitate real-time controls such as pause and play and things like that. H.323 also identifies the signaling and call control for setting up a multimedia session. And there are other protocols that can be involved in the call setup and establishment of voice over IP and multimedia sessions. Once a call or a multimedia session has been set up, to actually move the data back and forth, we're going to use the primary protocol of RTP, which is the Real-Time Transport Protocol. And the Real-Time Transport Control Protocol is going to be able to give us statistics and control information regarding a specific RTP flow that's in place. SRTP is the Secure Real-Time Transport Protocol with the intention of actually encrypting the data so that nobody can just eavesdrop it like we're about to do in this video and simply interpret all of our voice calls. Now, of course, before we would ever start listening in on a conversation, and certainly before we'd play it back, we'd want to make sure we had authorization to, look at that or listen to that information. And to do that in Wireshark, we're going to use two major menu items. We have the statistics menu and the telephony menu. Under statistics, we have, among other things, the options to generate a flow graph. And this can give us the play-by-play for the actual call setup, as well as the actual transport of that UDP traffic back and forth between the two parties involved in that conversation. Now, it gets even better than that. Check this out. Not only will it give us the detail of what's happening, but if we have all the packets, Wireshark can reassemble those packets and play it back for us so we can audibly hear the conversation that took place in the voice over IP network. The capture file we're using for this is VoIP.pcap. It's available in the Nugget Lab files, and the preferences file for this profile that I'm using is also in the Nugget Lab files for this video. So if you want to, you can start from exactly the same place as I am in this video and follow me along step by step. So let's start off with this capture file. Let's say this capture file was given to us. We aren't sure exactly what's in it, but we believe it has some voice traffic. What's a great way to kind of see from a high-level perspective what's in this capture? One great way is to go ahead and use the statistics drop-down menu right here. And from the statistics drop-down, let's go right here to protocol hierarchy. And this is going to open up a brand new window. So here's what this shows us in a nutshell. It says basically that all the packets are IPv4. So 100% of the packets are IPv4. And out of those, we have 99% or 99.9 that are UDP. And check it out, we have 0.03 that are SIP, Session Initiation Protocol. We also have a boatload that's RTP. Check it out right here, 95.41. And this is also based on your current display. So for example, if we close this for a moment, and we went back and we said, I only want to see packets that are SIP, for example. They have a SIP protocol involved. So now we have 40 packets out of our 43,000. And now if we go back to statistics and protocol hierarchy, See how it's quite different? It's only showing me the statistics and the hierarchy based on my current display filter. So that's one handy way to get a bird's eye view of what's going on very, very quickly. Let me go ahead and close that, take off my display filter. And while we're here, another really cool option under statistics is packet lengths right here. Now I have the option, if I want to set up a filter before it shows me the packet lengths, I can put a filter in, or I can just click on create stat and that will show me the packet lengths for all packets inside of this capture. So we see right here that over 50% of the packets in this capture are within 160 to 319 as far as their packet length. Now we might say, well gosh, that seems like fairly small packets. Is that a problem? Well, for the type of traffic, if most of this really is RTP, which it is, that's not a problem. If we were doing file transfer protocol or SMTP and moving large amounts of data, that wouldn't be the optimal packet size. We might want to look into that. But for voice, it's very likely that's going to be okay. Also under statistics, there's a cool option for IP addresses. So for example, if we just want to find all the IP addresses that are involved in this capture, we simply select this option. If we want to add a display filter based on this result, we can add that here. If not, simply click on create. And this is showing us all the addresses involved, which are including some wacky IPv6 addresses. But based on quantity of packets, we can see right here, 94% of all of our packets are being sent and received by these two addresses. And that's yet another handy way to see from a bird's eye perspective of what's going on inside of this capture. If we wanted to filter just on SIP traffic, we could very easily just go ahead and say, I want to see all packets that involve SIP, just like this, and press enter. And here we can take a look at the play-by-play. So we have, right here is an invite. So this is a device, let's call it a client, at 122. That's the last octet of its address right there. And this is the server it appears it's talking to. So the server is at .6. So the play-by-play, we have this invite message that's being sent over to the server, which is saying, hey, I'd like to go ahead and communicate. We have a status message going back. We have another request message specifying some options that it would like to go ahead and be able to use for the conversation going this way. And then we have a status message going back this way. And then we also have a ringing message saying basically, hey, I'm trying to reach that party. Hang on a second. So this is the ringing. And then we also have an OK message going this way. And then we have an acknowledgement going the other direction. So it looks like a successful call setup as far as SIP is concerned. So if we want to take a look at the details of one of these, for example, this guy right here, we can simply open it up and take a look at all the details. So I'm going to go ahead and remove the bytes pane down here. So let's say view, and I don't want to see the packet bytes. So it'll give us a little bit more real estate. And let me scroll this up just a little bit to get a little more room down here. So in the message body, we have the SDP, the Session Description Protocol. That's why it says SIP, and then a subset of that is SDP, which we're now looking at. So for example, if we want to take a look at the details, it specifies the media type, the port involved, and also the codecs. So let me ask you a question. Let's say that you're a telephony expert and you just can't figure out why a client, a device like an IP phone or a soft phone or something else, why the call setup isn't working correctly. How valuable would this detailed information be? Because now you can see exactly what's being requested, and perhaps the server isn't set up with the right codecs or they're misnegotiating something. You can see the exact detail of what's happening right here in Wireshark. Seeing this detailed information is absolutely helpful. However, perhaps we need to back off a little bit further and say, you know what? I just want to see a bird's eye view of this connection setup in the session initiation protocol. How do we see that? And the answer is we can go to statistics. And under statistics, check this out. We can go right down here to flow graph. That will show us the play-by-play detail from a graphical perspective that can assist us in troubleshooting SIP. Now, it's providing the opportunity, if we want to go ahead and base it on all packets or just the displayed packets. So if we have a display filter here, which we currently do, it's going to limit just to that output, which in this case is perfectly fine if we're troubleshooting SIP. So I'm going to go ahead and click on OK. So in this new window, we now have a graphical representation of the flows involved. So here we have a conversation between the host at 122 and .7. So that's these two packets right here. And then we have another conversation that is between 122 and .6 right here. So this is showing the endpoints of the conversation. And then down later, we have another conversation between .21 and 203 back and forth. And again, because we're filtering on SIP traffic, it's only going to show us SIP-related flows. The other cool thing is this. If we wanted to go ahead and take a look at a specific packet, for example, I want to look at this one right here, simply click on it, and it will automatically put that frame in your details pane. So we can take a look at the actual details of that exact packet. And that, my friend, is pretty darn cool. And just as a reminder, if we didn't have the display filter on SIP, it would still work. It would just show us all the flows, including other flows besides just SIP. So let me go ahead and close this. So under the statistics menu, the flow graph is this guy right there, and that's how you see that detailed play-by-play. For our next trick, here's what we're going to do. We're going to take a look at how we can actually reassemble those packets and listen to the actual voice conversation that went on that we recorded inside of Wireshark. To do that, we're going to use the telephony menu. So let's remove our display filter. So we're now looking at all 43,000 packets. And let's go to our very top packet, just as a nice clean starting place. Also, I'm going to right click over here and say collapse everything. So if you want to simulate this look and feel, you can absolutely do so. And if we want to play back the actual RTP traffic, the voice conversations, there's actually more than one way to do it, but it starts by going up to telephony. And from this drop-down menu, going to RTP and simply saying, I want to see all of the RTP streams, the real-time transport protocol. This will open up a brand new window. So in this new window for RTP streams, this is pretty amazing. It has the addresses and ports involved right over here, the type of payload, the packets involved, the lost, which is actually pretty darn important. With UDP, which is what we're using for the actual transport of the data, UDP is not reliable. So if we have dropped packets, they just get lost. We just move forward. If we have a huge amount of lost packets, the voice over IP call is not going to be acceptable, and people are going to be upset, and they aren't going to want to use the application of voice over IP. So this might be something we want to look into. If our lost is too high, we also have jitter. Now, jitter can also destroy a voice call. Jitter is a variance in the actual packet rate. For example, if we have a consistent flow of packets between a sender and receiver, for voice over IP, that is great because it's predictable, we can reassemble and play back the sound. But if we have a high jitter rate, for example, like above 50 or 60 milliseconds, that's going to really negatively affect a call. So I can see this guy right here, the maximum jitter of 187 is way out of line, and 4920 is too high too. So right off the bat, that's indicating a problem with that voice over IP call, at least for those users, because of the high jitter. If we want to take a detailed look at those, let's go ahead and take, for example, this guy is way, way out of the park. So let's look at him first. Now this is one side of a conversation. This is traffic going from this IP address going to this IP address. If we want to see both sides of the conversation, which is also very helpful if we want to eavesdrop or listen in on the conversation, or if we want to troubleshoot both sides, we could go ahead and say, you know what, I want to find the other side of that conversation. To do that, we're going to use this button right here, Find Reverse. It'll automatically, based on the ports and the IP addresses, it'll go ahead and highlight the other side of that conversation, which happens to be this guy right here, and now they're both highlighted. So this is one direction right here, and this is the reply or the other direction. So it's so easy. If we want to analyze those two conversations, all we need to do is, with them both highlighted, click on the Analyze button, which will open up a new window for that analysis. So this represents the forward direction, or the packets going from 192.168.121 going to 203. And if we want to see the other side of the conversation, we simply click on Reverse Direction. It'll show us that as well. It also has down here for reference the actual max jitter and the mean jitter. So that means the jitter wasn't 187 the entire time. That was just at its worst point. So with the mean jitter of 21, it's very likely that that call could be acceptable to the users, especially if they're used to using a cell phone, which might have conditioned them for a less than optimal experience. So we can scroll through these. There's also some buttons. For example, we want to go to the next non-OK packet. So here we have packet 8025. It says wrong sequence number. If we want to look at the details of that, we could click on Jump To and check this out. It'll jump us in Wireshark to that exact packet so we can take a look at the details of that packet. There's also the option right here to play the conversation back. So if we go to Player right here, that opens up a new window. And because the max jitter was 187 milliseconds, I'm going to go ahead and say for the voice over IP playback, I'm going to tell it to go ahead and use 200 milliseconds. That way I'm going to capture and play back everything. See, what happens is if I set this to 50 milliseconds, then any content with a jitter larger than 50 milliseconds wouldn't make it into my playback, so I wouldn't be able to hear it. So by setting a large jitter buffer, I might actually have a better listening experience than the actual people did on the call. So I'm going to go ahead and click on decode, and there's that conversation. Now what I've done in my recording software, I just turned on system audio because I want you to be able to hear this along with me. Now the tricky part is this: we're looking at both sides of the conversation, one going one direction, one going the other direction, and if we play them both back together, we should be able to hear both sides of the conversation. However, to do that, we need to check this box and this box before we go ahead and click on play. So I'm going to select both sides, and with them selected and my jitter buffer set to 200 milliseconds, only because the worst jitter they experienced was less than 200, I want to be able to hear everything. I can then go ahead and click on play. I also want to point out that the conversation we're about to hear is staged and made up. We're not really eavesdropping on a live conversation of sensitive information. So with that, let's go ahead and click on play.
Doug, this is Bill. Did you get the info I was looking for? Well, I thought we already discussed numbers.
So if you're following along and you'd like to listen to the rest of this conversation, please feel free. So I'm going to go ahead and close that, and close this as well, and close that. And let me go back to the very top of our capture one more time. Another way that we can listen to a voice over IP call is, instead of going to telephony and selecting RTP and show all streams, we could also go right down here to voice over IP calls, and this will get us to the playback just a little bit faster. So we'll click on voice over IP calls, which will open up a new window, and here's the two calls that it sees. So let's go ahead and click on this first one. We'll click on player, which brings up a new window. I'm not sure what the jitter is on this conversation, so I'm going to play it safe and just go 200 again. Click on decode. So I don't need, this one here is blank, so I'm not going to select that. I'm going to select the top one and the bottom one because I can visually see there's some content there, and then I'll go ahead and click on play.
Pretty good. Ready for that meeting at 1? Blue room, I think.
So again, that's yet another way to listen to voice over IP calls that are captured and sitting as packets inside of Wireshark. In this video, we've taken a look at using Wireshark to dig into the details of voice over IP, including the call setup and the transmission of a voice call using the respective protocols. We've also demonstrated how we can use the tools under the statistics and telephony menus to not only see in a graphical representation the play-by-play conversations that are going on, but we can also play that content back because Wireshark has the built-in codecs to understand many of the conversations in voice over IP. Your homework assignment is really simple. It's to do what you've seen me do in this video. Grab the Nugget Lab file and walk through the steps of looking at the setup and the actual conversation that happens in voice over IP. By practicing these skills right now, you'll be better prepared to help analyze your production voice over IP traffic. I've had a blast. Thank you for spending this time with me. I hope this has been informative for you, and I'd like to thank you for viewing.